Hello and welcome to PIDP 3106 Using Case Studies by myself, Andrea Eby. So what is a case study? A case study is a research methodology common in social sciences. It can be a real situation that actually happened, or portions may have been disguised for reasons of privacy. So it's a document, usually a big document for cases if we're looking at a Harvard or Ivy case, which is what I will base my presentation on. And it has all kinds of data for the organization, event that's going to be used for further learning outcomes. Where cases are used, traditionally they've been used in management courses, especially in the MBA programs across at large. Cases are really used there, but they are now seeing the benefits of cases being used in other academic disciplines. And mainly it's because faculty are eager to examine their classroom teaching practices and looking to improve them. In terms of advantages, Confucius said, "I hear and I forget, I see, I remember, I do, I understand." That's one of the reasons that cases are so valuable. So basically, students put themselves in the place of the manager of the situation and figure out how they're going to move forward, and has a lot of application. As you can see, Ivy alumni experienced a 92% increase in their salaries 3 years post-graduation, the highest in Canada. So Ivy at University of Western Ontario is a really strong business school, and it's a total case-based approach to their learning. In terms of limitations, sometimes it's difficult to manage the class when you're doing cases because you're going to allocate your group of students into groups of 4 or 5 for the actual in-class session. And so sometimes students can get carried away, as in the photo, and may not focus on the task at hand. You also sometimes have no access to the proprietary data involved, and in terms of management of the outcome, you want to make sure that the learning outcomes are clear and achievable in the end. Preparation is critical. And lastly, international students really struggle with case studies because group work is not typically something that international students are very accustomed to, and so it takes some time and adaptation and preparation for this. What is a case study? So I have pictures of Harvard and Ivy here. They're the two that are really the leaders in the industry. You can buy your cases from these two organizations. Sometimes the same case is offered by both. Basically, it's 15 to 20 pages. And when you buy one of these cases, it basically gives you the information for the company or the situation and talks about the role of the decision maker in facing the problem at hand. So what is included in a case study, you'll read through the case and you'll notice people involved, historical content of the information, any relationships, key factors, tensions or issues, and any relevant social, managerial, financial components. And oftentimes you'll have a case of 15 to 20 pages, and you'll have maybe 10 pages of text and 10 pages of data in the appendix, some financial statements, other visuals, positioning charts, competitive analysis would all be under the appendix. In terms of a case study, it's intensive for both students and instructor. The focus on students is learning through joint cooperative effort. So basically, students learn how to think in terms of the problems faced by the administrator. Best practices for learner preparation is, first of all, the instructor to include it in your assignment deck. And I have an example of something that I've done in my recent course, where you actually allocate evaluation criteria to the case. So for the one case that I have as an example, it's 5%, 4% for the preparation work ahead, and 1% for showing up and doing the work in the case. And in terms of preparation for the students, firstly, students need to purchase the case, which is $6, and then they need to do the overview of case studies provided by the instructor, and I recommend a build up to Ivy and Harvard cases, so using small cases before you get to one of these large ones. and then establishing clear guidelines on what's required, and again, putting that into your assignment deck right at the beginning of the course. Best practices is in terms of instructor preparation, you need time for sure, so you're looking at 8 to 10 hours. The student preparation itself was probably around 3 to 5 hours or 3 to 4. So you need to look at teaching notes. Oftentimes cases will come with teaching notes, and sometimes you may have further questions, and I recommend contacting the author directly. I've done this. I've talked to one of the Harvard authors, and very, very helpful in giving you additional information, and I think that it really enhances your learning outcome. Also, in terms of you as an instructor, you really need to have industry knowledge and research any other relevant industry resources to apply to the case. In terms of best practices, both learner and instructions should follow the following 2 steps: the short cycle process and the long cycle process. So just as a reminder, we're going to go through these. The instructor needs about 3 times the work of students. In terms of the short cycle process, what you're going to do is quickly read the case. You're going to answer who the decision maker is, what appears to be the issue, why the issue has arisen, and when the decision maker has to decide. In terms of the short cycle process, you're going to take a look at the exhibits, you're going to review subtitles, and you're going to review case questions. Also, really why you're doing this short cycle process is to establish how much work is needed ahead in order to prepare for the case properly. So step 2 then is the long cycle process, and it involves 2 areas: detailed reading of the case and analysis of the case. So in terms of the reading, you're looking at the opening paragraph, what is the situation, background information, any specifics, areas of interest, the specific problem, alternatives, they might be stated in the case, and the conclusion. So in the conclusion, it will say, what should Johnny do to move sales ahead in the organization? That's the type of thing. So you'll see some questions in the conclusion, basically asking what should be done to improve the situation at hand. So not all of the cases, you need to understand the decisions and take your time, keep focused on your objectives. In terms of the long cycle process, you need to define the issue. So sometimes the issue is confusing, and that alone takes some time because, for example, declining sales can be a problem, a result, but it's actually other symptoms that are the real issue in declining sales. Analyzing data, so you want to look at the people, resources, and the problems there, generating alternatives, look at what some positive choices are and be realistic about these. And sometimes it's to actually have no change to the organization. And select decision criteria, evaluate alternatives, and then select the preferred alternative, and then develop the overall plan. Those are the 7 steps. In terms of execution, in class, the case should be conducted by groups of 4 or 5 students. So here's the plan for the class. You want to have a group discussion first, final presentation, then a class discussion, and then an instructor wrap-up where you use your teaching notes and other information and bring everything to a close. Consider the environment, meaning if it's a nice day, let your students go outside, but make sure you use that preparation time where they're working in groups to walk around and ensure that they're doing the work at hand and understand the questions they need to resolve. Time in class, I would say you need 2.5 to 3 hours. So incorporating cases into your timeline, into your courses, you want to look at timelines. 3 to 6 months, you want to review some of the cases out there. And then 3 months prior to the course, in your book order, you include your cases. Check with other instructors or faculty to see if there's any overlap. And I recommend no more than 2 Ivy or Harvard cases per course, depending on what you're doing. If you're teaching a total case-based method course, then you can, of course, use more. But for more average courses, I would recommend just 2 total. First day of class, include in your course outline and assignment deck, and I gave you an example of that. And at the earliest, I would recommend week 3 of the course for an Ivy or Harvard case. In terms of ethics, you may come across this. When you're ordering your cases, you as an instructor will get your internet copy or electronic copy, and it has a big do not copy or post. So basically, you need to explain to students that the cases do cost $6, they do need to purchase them, and that it is legal to copy. Of course, I have been in a situation where my cases were not in on time, although they were ordered, and the bookstore manager suggested that I just post them online on my Moodle site for reviewing until they came in, which I did, and students bought them after. Thank you for the presentation. If you have any questions, please contact me.